Hi, this is July 30th. Tomorrow is the last day of July, and then we're into August. Hard to believe, isn't it? This coming Sunday, again, to remind you, is the first Sunday of the month, and we celebrate Holy Communion on that day. And we continue to offer our services on YouTube, but we, at the close of the service, will celebrate communion together. So I invite you to have your elements, your bread and wine, or crackers and grape juice, and I'll lead you through the service of Holy Communion. As I mentioned on Tuesday, we are in Matthew's Gospel for the scripture, and my sermon will be based on Matthew 14, chapter 14. We'll begin with verse 13, and I believe it's through 21 there, which is the account of Jesus feeding the multitude. But it begins in verse 13 with Jesus deeply wanting to get away by himself. He asked the disciples to take him across the lake to a deserted place where he can simply renew and recharge. He has returned from Nazareth back to the lake area, and there's something healing about water, isn't it? Something about being at the lake that is restoring and renewing, because he has had two experiences that really point to the humanity of Jesus. We can imagine him grieving both of these experiences. I mentioned on Tuesday there were two. One in particular was that he returned home to Nazareth, to his home synagogue, to the village where he grew up, and everybody knew him, expecting that people would maybe hear his message of the kingdom, and where he could perform miracles and healings and deliverance, and people would accept his message. But it did not happen that way. In fact, he made them angry. He talked about, and you can read in Luke chapter 4 more detail about this, of how people who were outsiders, not Jews at all, were included in God's kingdom. He mentioned the widow of Zarephath, who was not Jewish and who was a foreigner, or Naaman, who was from Syria, again, a non-Jew, and they didn't like that. And so they even tried to take him to a hill and throw him off and kill him. But he just disappeared or moved through the crowd and got away from that. And when he returned to the lake, he learned that his relative John, whom we know as John the Baptizer, had been executed by Herod for speaking out about the immorality of Herod, and Herod marrying his half-brother's wife, and also Herod's niece. And John spoke up about that publicly, and it got him arrested and then killed. So Jesus is grieving the loss of these two things. You know, in life, sometimes we can face one thing, we can handle one thing, but when it starts to pile up, when there's several things happening in our lives. And I'm thinking right now, in response to the coronavirus and the racial unrest and the political divide and just all the changes of this season and all the things that we're facing, the difficulties, not being able to have the freedoms that we have in terms of being in church together, having to wear masks, things like that to protect one another, that make sense, that are careful, we're being careful with one another. It has people unsettled and upset and grieving the different losses. Loss of job, loss of income, loss of being able to see family, loss of being together in worship. Just so many losses that people are grieving. And when people are grieving, you know, they're experiencing the stages of grief, denial and anger and blame. And you just see that. You can see it on the news. You see it in our own community, in our own churches, of how people are angry, people are blaming, people are in denial about things. Well, Jesus was experiencing all that too. He was human, so he needs to get alone. He wants to be by himself. And while he has gone to this deserted place, this multitude of folks who kind of got word of where he was, they want to be recipients of Jesus' power. They want to be blessed by him. They want to be healed of their diseases. They want to be delivered. And so they come toward him And no one would blame him if he said, I'm just not available right now. Or told the disciples, tell them to go away for now. I need some time away. I need to recharge. I need some downtime. I need to be with God and grieve myself and to be with the Father and to have that time of prayer. And that certainly was Jesus's pattern, where he would be in ministry and then find time away to pray, to renew, to be filled again. But he sees them coming, and he has compassion for them. Even in his own grief and in his own sense of loss, he has compassion, and he heals them, and he delivers them. And I can't help but wonder, where did he get that? He was depleted. He was empty. He needed to be refilled. But it's in those times when we're grieving a loss, when we feel all the stages of grief, when we're just overwhelmed by the things of life and the losses that we have, that's when God shows up for us. That's when God empowers us to have compassion for others and to care for others. Maybe we don't feel like it, but God in us, the Spirit in us, does that for us and helps us to have compassion. So I'll be moving this forward and talking about Jesus feeding the multitude on Sunday. So please come and join us. I hope you have a blessed day today on this Thursday. Stay cool and peace.